advantage of co-ops is it's a business model that's adaptable to whatever, and people use co-ops in order to create housing. And some of this housing is high-end housing. You know, John Lennon belonged to a co-op that was a very high-end co-op, and what they gained was they gained control over their building and how it was going to be run and so forth. We also have housing co-ops that are for very low-income people and allows them an option to either have rental housing that they have a say in how it's governed, or they have an option for home ownership. So co-ops are adaptable. Consumers use them in order to be able to control the kind of consumer goods they get, in order to try to have some influence over the price of those goods. Parents use them in order to create childcare services for their kids that they have some control over, that they are more affordable. I mean, people form co-ops to achieve all kinds of different goals, and the advantage is that they democratically control it. And if we look at it, there was the last principle that was added to the cooperative principles that are kind of the guiding force of co-ops internationally is concern for community. And that means it's recognizing the fact that co-ops, they're not capital driven so much as they're need driven by the owners. Now sometimes that might be to be able to invest your money better. It might be able to get a better price for your product and so forth. But the ultimate goal isn't to achieve capital for capital's sake. It's to create, as an end, particular goals. So concern for community is recognizing that co-ops are embedded in the communities where they live. Basically, they are home-based, they are member-based, people know each other. And so just by the inherent nature of a co-op, they're going to have more concern for community. They're going to be better environmental stewards. They're going to be recognizing how they treat their workers because they live in the community where that institution exists. And so I think that's another advantage of co-ops, is that the basis for the co-op is not just to acquire capital for a huge corporation or for stockholders. The basis of it is to provide a service for members. Well, California Center for Cooperative Development, our mission is to provide a resource for co-ops and for people interested in cooperatives, and particularly viewing co-ops as a vibrant business model. And we want to promote their development and assist co-ops that are currently in operation. There are a lot of agricultural cooperatives in California, and we help those that are in existence, or we support them by offering, for instance, board education so that they can keep abreast of the latest kinds of developments, learn about what their role is in the co-op as leaders and decision makers. And some of those co-ops include Sunkist, Blue Diamond. Land O'Lakes isn't a California co-op, but it is a big co-op. Sunmade, all of those are cooperatives, and we just don't realize that they're cooperatives because we think of them as big corporations, although they're really a whole lot of producers that market under the same name. There's a lot of businesses that are like that, actually. When you stay at a Best Western hotel, you're actually patronizing a co-op. Ace Hardware is a co-op of hardware businesses. So there are lots of co-ops that we just don't realize are co-ops. Well, Sunkist, Blue Diamond, those kinds of co-ops are marketing co-ops. And so they're individual producers, actually of varying sizes, you know, of acreage, and they are marketing together. So they have a home for their product. It used to be that individual producers would be at the mercy, basically, of a broker. And broker would pit farmer against farmer, saying, you know, I can get almonds down the road for 2 cents cheaper. Do you want to give me a better price? So basically farmers were working against one another. And so a very long time ago, farmers realized if we don't work together and set our own price, we're going to be very vulnerable. And some farmers are still vulnerable in that way, but co-ops basically allow people to market under a shared name, and so they can have a home for their product, they can get a better price for it, and you know, you see a lot of these companies adding some value to that and creating other products, such as, you know, flavored almonds instead of just almonds, a whole variety of almonds, so that they can increase their ability to make a profit and so forth as individual producers. Well, not every farmer has the ability to or the interest in belonging to a co-op. Some of them they feel like they have a good deal with a big corporation, and so they stay in that mode. Some of them don't really necessarily have the alternative. For instance, there's some emerging markets that we've been working with. In California, for instance, there's a lot of development of olive oil, particularly as water is becoming a shortage and it's threatening agriculture in the state. We have this competition between real estate and agriculture, basically for water. And so a lot of the production of agriculture is going toward crops that don't require a lot of water, like wine grapes and olives, and consumers are also developing a palate for good wine and good olive oil. And so olive oil is a new industry for California. It's going to be a real growing industry. It's amazing that in this day and age still people are marketing olive oil as quote unquote imported, so it's better. Well, we have domestic olive oil and we need to start recognize that. In California, that's going to be an emerging market. We've just did some research to try to see if we could help some local farmers develop a co-op in order to market their oil, or to have a unified press, because with olive oil you have to be able to press the olives within a very, very short period of time, like one day, and so you need a nearby press. But for now, those olive growers are not interested in a co-op because they're doing their own label, individual label, kind of a cottage label. But down the road, we're able to see through this feasibility study that we did that there's going to be so many olives on the market that probably the best thing for them to do is to form co-ops so that they can have it under a unified label, or at least have a press. So, there's just this evolution in every different kind of crop, every different kind of product, and people have their own reasons for doing things in a different way. A co-op isn't for everybody. The nice thing is that co-ops have a voluntary membership, so you're not forced to join a co-op. You don't have to belong to a co-op, and that's one of the strengths of a co-op. I think that co-ops have a lot of advantages, especially in a climate where we have corporations getting larger and larger, becoming very, very much involved in diversifying. So we have huge conglomerates, and in many cases, some people could argue monopolies in certain industries. We have fewer and fewer choices as consumers. And the advantage of a cooperative is we have businesses that are used and controlled by the people that own them, and they're democratically controlled. And that's an alternative to a traditional business model that allows people to discern what they want, not what somebody else is going to give them, and to be able to get that and do that by working together as a co-op. I think there's very much a correlation between the democracy that you have in co-ops and civic participation by members in many ways. If you go back to looking at a lot of people, especially I notice it because I've worked a lot with child care co-ops, a lot of women that are in politics today started out in preschool co-ops. They're my age, they're in their 50s, and their history and their early history and involvement in leadership was in something as simple as a preschool co-op. But I think that in a lot of ways, when people become involved, when they see the power on a very, very local level of a democratic action, of voting, that they take that out into the community. It may be that they vote in elections. It may be that they just serve on a committee at the PTA. It may be that they join some kind of organization that does that supports a cause that they feel strongly about. But I think there's very much an association there.